Whoo boy, good evening, hockey fans. Blockbuster in the National Hockey League as Seth Jones has been traded from the Chicago Blackhawks to the Florida Panthers in a deal that will see the Chicago Blackhawks take back elite goalie prospect Spencer Knight and a first-round selection. Oh my goodness, let's get into this. So, full details on this one. The Florida Panthers are acquiring Seth Jones, who has 5 more years on his contract at originally $9.5 million. If we look down here on the Chicago Blackhawks, Seth Jones, 30 years old, signed at 9.5 until the end of 2030. So for 5 more years, the Blackhawks will be retaining $2.5 million on that contract. That's why they're able to bring back so much value, I believe. Mighty Joe, Landon, McKenzie, welcome to the stream. So the Panthers take on Seth Jones for the next 5 years at a $7 million cap hit, along with a 4th-round pick in exchange for goalie prospect Spencer Knight and a 2026 first-round pick, which will push to a 2027 first if the Panthers end up not having their own first in 2026. So as of now, the Panthers don't have a first, second, or third in 2025 and are moving their first in 2026, which if they end up moving in a separate deal, I suppose, they would end up having to give their 2027 first instead. In exchange, the Blackhawks for retaining $2.5 million, giving up Seth Jones, the Blackhawks get Spencer Knight, who was the 13th overall selection of the 2019 draft, thought to be the future in Florida. Things weren't going well for Bobrovsky. Time to move on from him. But no, Bobrovsky carries the Panthers to a Stanley Cup, and he continues to be the guy in Florida. Yes, he's getting older. Yes, he's 36, but he's still signed on this year. He's signed on next year. Spencer Knight, making $4.5 million, will be an expiring RFA, and he is the future between the pipes for the Chicago Blackhawks now. So the Blackhawks fill a huge need of theirs. They get a player who's 7 years younger, and they move on from Seth Jones, who wanted to move. He wasn't a part of the timeline in Chicago. And all it costs them, honestly, is $2.5 million of retention. Now, $2.5 million over 5 years, honestly, that's a lot of retention. That's why they're bringing back so much value, a first and an elite goalie prospect. But the Panthers, now looking at their depth chart here in Florida, on the right side, they have Forsling, Ekblad. Second pair can be whatever, Mikkola and Jones. Third pair can be then Belinskis, Belinskis, and Dmitry Kulikov, whoever it might be. So Schmidt or Belinskis can then get pushed down in the lineup, and that allows Seth Jones to be a huge part of the blue line moving forward in Florida, as it's no longer just Forsling and Ekblad. And that's 2 big guys and 4 other supporting cast members. Not to say Mikkola, Kulikov are no good, but just say more supporting cast members. Bring in Seth Jones, and that now adds to the big 3 here on the Florida blue line. For the Chicago Blackhawks, they didn't have much hiccups here when I'm talking this quick. They didn't have much in their system goaltender-wise. Arvid Soderblom has been carrying a lot of the load for the Blackhawks. Of course, Peter Mrazek likely to be let go after his contract expires. Who is the future between the pipes for the Chicago Blackhawks? Drew Commesso was a 2nd-round pick of theirs. So he's definitely going to be fighting for the crease. But Drew Commesso is no longer, you no longer have to put all your eggs in Drew Comesso's basket. You now can allow yourself to say, okay, Spencer Knight is the guy now. He can share the crease with whoever it might be, Mrazek, Soderblom. And then next year, let's say if we go back over here, Soderblom will be an expiring RFA. Laurent Brassois has been injured. You buy out somebody. Somebody's getting moved or bought out or something here, absolutely. Because you can't have Mrazek and Brassois and Soderblom and Knight. You can't have 4 goalies here. So either Brassois staying IR for a long time, or Soderblom's going to be flipped as an RFA, or Mrazek's going to be bought out for his last year or buried or something. But the future in Chicago is going to be Spencer Knight and Drew Commesso. That is really, really big for the Blackhawks. So Seth Jones going to the Florida Panthers with a 4th-round pick in 2026 in exchange for a 1st-round pick in 2026 and Spencer Knight. Now, what will the Panthers be doing for their goaltender? As much as maybe they weren't putting 100% trust in Spencer Knight, he was their guy after Sergei Bobrovsky. Who else is in their system now? Not much. Cooper Black, there's not much goaltending wise. Oh, of course, Adam is it Gadgen? I forgot about him as well. He's not signed on, but he's also a goalie prospect in the Chicago Blackhawks system. However, he is a lot younger. So if we look at the Blackhawks right now, hold on, give me a second to pull up their draft history here. Blackhawks draft. Yeah, because they have other goalies in their prospect as well. in their system as well. So the Blackhawks drafted Adam Gadjan with the 35th overall pick in 2023, but he is still what? He's 20, he's going to be turning 21, still playing at the University of Minnesota Duluth. So he was drafted in 2023. Drew Commesso was drafted in the second round here in 2020. So Commesso will be pushing for the NHL crease sooner, that's for sure. So, Spencer Knight, I say prospect, but he's 23 as well, going on 24. So Spencer Knight can be your goalie of the next, 5 years. Drew Commesso is going to be ready for the NHL backup maybe next season, as soon as next season. And then Adam Gadjan, who you just drafted in 2023, he's still probably at least I'd say 3 years away. So that shouldn't muddy up the waters too much. But that gives you a lot more certainty for the right now here in Chicago, as I'm not exactly certain what they want their timeline to be, but that's just accelerated a little bit more. That just accelerated a little bit more. So if we refresh, here we go. So Spencer Knight now on the Blackhawks. The Hawks had the room to do it for sure. Still with $20.8 million in cap space. They get another first round pick. So look, they're pretty loaded in the next couple of drafts. 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a third, 2 fourths. 2026, 2 firsts, 3 seconds, a first, 2 fourths. So they had they had 3 fourth round picks. So they were able to trade away one of them, no problem. Meanwhile, the Florida Panthers, if we refresh over here, who are they have to turn to? Probably Chris Driedger gets called up. And now draft pick wise, no first, 2025, 2026. And only, honestly, yeah, that's true. Only a second round pick in the next 2 seasons of the first 3 rounds. So no first, no second, no first and no third the next 2 years. Only a second in 2026. So the Panthers are definitely trying to run it back. Yeah, so again, details on the trade if you're just joining us. Here it is, as Seth Jones has been traded to the Florida Panthers from the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for Spencer Knight and a 2026 first-round pick. The Panthers will be getting Jones at $7 million instead of $9.5 million, as the Blackhawks will be retaining $2.5 million for the next 5 years. Nice says absolutely fleeced the Panthers. Now, I wouldn't say absolute fleece, but I do think that the Blackhawks win this deal, not only from getting good value out of Seth Jones, but not having to dump him. Like, look at the Blackhawks, look at the Columbus Blue Jackets and Patrick Laine. They had to give up a second round pick to get rid of Patrick Laine and take back a third pair defenseman. Seth Jones at $9.5 million until 2030. You're either dumping him for nothing or you're giving him along with a pick to try and get some value back. But no, they say instead, we're going to retain the salary. We're going to take the hit, retaining $2.5 million for the next 5 years. We have no need to say we're going to be up against the cap for the next 5 years, most likely. We're going to retain salary on him and send him to a team that they need defense and they are championship caliber and they want to be competitive for the next 5 years. That's the Florida Panthers. And they will give us their first round pick in 2026, which they're hoping will be a late first. So a late first and a 23 going on 24-year-old goaltender who can be our starter of the future. To whoever you got Commesso, you got Gadjan, you got them in the system too. But Spencer Knight at least is stability. You don't have to have question marks about Marachek, Brossois, whatever. No, Spencer Knight comes in today, is the guy for another couple of years, and then competition will be introduced. Oh yeah, Spencer Knight is definitely up there when it comes to young goalies. He had some trouble with the player assistance program. That was from obsessive compulsive disorder, though. It wasn't like an Evgeny Kuznetsov type of situation without using other words. It wasn't those types of things. So the retention comes in at 26.3%, which makes him $7 million against the cap until the end of 2030. Yes. Anything else we're missing here? Yeah, so let's get the Jay Fresh card going. So Seth Jones, acquired by Florida, is a minute-munching defenseman who is strong on the puck, big and above average in almost every facet of the game. His Achilles heel the past 5 years has been agility, which makes him vulnerable defending the rush. He's also gotten a lot of hate because of his contract, but he's still a toolsy and talented player. He was never the star number 1 defenseman people said he was in the late 2010s, but I expect him to be a good fit in Florida, and $7 million is a lot more reasonable, especially with the cap rising. Great point, right there. So Seth Jones over the last 3 years, according to weighted average data, he's been in the 60th percentile of projected wins above replacement, 71st percentile of even strength offense, and 13th percentile of even strength defense. Very good in the power play, very, very good in the penalty kill, 80th and 92nd percentiles respectively. High finishing, but remember, take that with a grain of salt as a defenseman. Goals, 33rd percentile, all right. Primary assists in the 70th percentile. Should hopefully, you'd want him to draw some more penalties, but he plays against very high levels of competition as a top defenseman on a bad team. It makes sense, playing with slightly above average levels of teammates. So Seth Jones, analytically, it's not stats wise here, 27 points in 42 games on the year, on pace for about 50 points, which would be, about on the pace with the best numbers that he's had so far in his career. Of course, 57 back in 17-18 with the Blue Jackets, drafted 4th overall by the Predators in 2013. He was traded from the Preds to the Blue Jackets in the Ryan Johansson trade. There you go. Ryan Johansson, and then he ends up being part of the massive block. The Blackhawks paid a big price. We can't deny that. As much as Adam Boqvist hasn't worked out or whatever, and Nolan Allen has been very good for the Blackhawks, to say that the trade cost the Blackhawks Jiricek, Sillinger, a second who became Heimo Salmi, who they then flipped to the Hurricanes in the Jake Bean trade. So essentially Jake Bean, David Jiricek, Cole Sillinger, Adam Boqvist for Seth Jones and Nolan Allen. So I still think as much as we're getting good value back in a first and Spencer Knight, this still hurts the Blackhawks, but it hurts a lot less than it could have. This could have been a very ugly break for the Hawks to say, eesh, who's going to take $9.5 million for 5 years? We're going to have to sweeten it with a prospect or a pick or something. No, they're going to say instead, we'll retain salary. $2.5 million doesn't break the bank, especially with the cap increasing. And at $7 million, the Panthers say, hey, we're a lot more interested in taking him on. We'll give you hopefully this late first round pick in 2026, and we'll give you Spencer Knight. That's the bigger question mark. Spencer Knight, as much as he hasn't become the elite number one guy yet that he was drafted to be in 2019, he's still had 80 appearances in the NHL. He's been the full-time backup this year. He's 12-8-1 in his 23 appearances with the Panthers so far. 2.4 goals against average. Fantastic numbers with the Charlotte Checkers down in the AHL. There's no reason to think that he would not have been the future guy for the Florida Panthers after Sergei Bobrovsky were to move on. But it seems as though the Panthers are saying, no, we love what Bobrovsky's been doing. We love Bob. And I wouldn't be surprised if they, 36, then 37, maybe another 1 year, 2 year deal in 2027, 28 to get him to his late 30s. I could see them doing some more. And then once it's time to acquire another goaltender, I guess they're going to have to go via a trade or free agency route. Because I don't think the Panthers have anyone else really in their system. This guy they drafted in the 7th round in 2024. Olaf Glifford in the 5th round of 2023. Tyler Muzelik in the, 6th round of 2022. Kirill, last name, in the 5th round of 2021. So they have a bunch of prospects, and they even had Devin Levi, right? They have a bunch of prospects in their system, goaltender prospects, who they've drafted in like the 5th round and beyond. But I wouldn't say they have anyone ready to take the crease after Bobrovsky now that Spencer Knight is gone. So is that a problem? Is that a today problem? No. Do they need to worry about this now or even this offseason? Not necessarily. Bobrovsky can continue to be the guy. But it's definitely going to be a big question for them long term. Spencer Knight and a first, yes. Was there a card for us, Spencer Knight? I don't think so, right? No. Spencer Knight is a goalie. So Erik Karlsson, no longer the guy that you think they might, they were talking about the right-handed defenseman going to Florida. It ends up being Seth Jones and not Erik Karlsson. The condition on the first-round pick in the Seth Jones trade is a 2026 first one in Chicago. But if Florida ends up not having that pick, then it moves to a 2027 first. Oh, because the Panthers may have already given up that pick in a separate trade. That's what it is. It moves to a 2027 first-round pick, which goes to the Blackhawks instead. So the Blackhawks either get a 26 or 27 first-round pick. That makes sense. There you go. Going back to the comments here, I know I'm seeing a lot of comments in here. Did they have to trade Knight for cap reasons? They didn't. I mean, to bring in Jones, maybe. Let me go back here. What's up with the Panthers' salary now if we refresh? So the Panthers have $550K in salary. So yeah, if they were going to take on Seth Jones, they had to move out someone making at least $4 million, and that was Spencer Knight. I don't think they did that because they had to move $4 million. I think they did it because it made sense for what the Blackhawks wanted, etc. Because if they really needed to shed money, I would think that they would dump Luosterainen or Mikola if it was like a desperation type thing. So it makes sense they had to clear up at least 4 million. They clear up or whatever the exact number would be. They have 550K. So they had 5 million. They free up 4.5 by trading Spencer Knight and bringing back Seth Jones. It leaves them with 550K. That's what you need to know. So did they have to trade Spencer Knight for it to work? Not necessarily, but he was one of the guys that would make it work. So yeah, Chris Drieger. Also, Kachuk on IR, yes. But will he be going to LTIR? I guess that'll be the question mark as well. Longtime Hawks fan, Jones is not good, LOL. I love this trade. Yeah, for sure. If I'm a Blackhawks fan, I like it a lot. If I'm a Panthers fan, I don't hate it because I'm getting Jones. But I do think, I don't know what's going on now goaltender-wise. Knight taking over now? I would think so. I would think he has to. Sports Shorts. I was at the Panthers game today and everyone loves Knight. Even during the anthem, we yell Knight, so a lot of people won't be happy. I think, yeah, I agree. Spencer Knight, he had gone through a lot, went up between Charlotte, Florida, player assistance program with obsessive compulsive disorder, fought through a lot. He's been the backup a couple different seasons, including this year. He was finally getting that consistent time behind Sergei Bobrovsky. I wonder if he felt as though I want to be the starter now. I'm going on 24 years of age. I'm behind Bobrovsky now. I'm still behind him next year. Was it a matter of patience or was it Florida saying, let's get value for him now because we're not sure if we're ready to even be close to moving on from Bobrovsky, as he might have 2, 3+ more seasons left in him, I wonder. But definitely fan favorite. I'm surprised the trade happened so quickly, says Gen Z. I expected this to happen in the offseason or something. But no, yeah, for a guy with that much term, Seth Jones is going to be in Florida for 5 more years. Well, at least according to his contract, making $7 million as the cap hit, which is digestible at this time in for the Panthers with 550K of cap space available. King Taylor says that that's not actually why the fans yell Knight. It's just tradition in hockey, especially in Florida. I would say even if that's not why they're shouting Knight, I can't speak for Florida Panther traditions in Sunrise, Florida, but I can definitely say that I think from what I'm understanding, there was a lot of love behind the story of Spencer Knight and just like the underdog story I'm looking for. How did we get Knight in a first? Is Seth Jones that dude? I feel like we got shafted. Well, at 7 million, it's definitely easier to take on Seth Jones at a $7 million cap hit. Let's go back to Jay Fresh here so I can show you the card. As Tactics says, Chicago wins this, but Florida defensive depth was terrible, so don't hate the trade for them either. That's the thing. In terms of trade value, both now and in the future, I think this is a win for the Blackhawks. But at the same time, the Panthers filled their needs, and they're looking for a Stanley Cup today. So Seth Jones, over the last few years, his value has definitely been dropping from like 90th percentile down to like maybe 30th percentile and wins above replacement. Offense and defense both dropping in hand as well there too. So it's not a great look for Seth Jones, but keep in mind, he's been a number 1 defenseman on a very bad Blackhawks team, playing like 25 minutes per night at times. He's averaging 24-30 over the last couple seasons, averaging like 25 minutes per night the last 2 years in Chicago. And the last 2 years, as you can see, drop off, big drop off, drop off, big drop off, drop off, big drop off. So last 2 years haven't been great, especially not this year for the Blackhawks. He does have 27 points in 42 games, which is good. He's been healthy as well, which is nice to see. He's on a solid pace. His career high is 57, 16 goals and 57 points in 2017-18. This year, he would be on a 53-point pace, so it would be the second highest point total of his career. So, yeah, that's like he's still who he is, and who he is has not been great defensively as of late. But the Florida Panthers needed better defensive depth, and allowing Seth Jones to not have to be the guy on a bad Blackhawks team, make him the second pair guy behind Aaron Ekblad. I think Seth Jones can do a lot more. Maybe not get back to his prime in Columbus, but I think he can do a lot better than he's done the last couple seasons. So Florida get a good second pair defenseman. Seth Jones as a top pair guy is a bit over his head, but put him in a second pair role at $7 million with the increasing cap. I think this works for the Panthers. Now, the cost that it takes is quite hefty in Spencer Knight and a first-round pick. Let me pull this back up and go back to the comments here. Florida season ticket holder here. We yell Knight for Spencer, period. Okay, so good. That's the insight that I need to see here. King Taylor's not sure, but hey, I think we can all agree at least that Spencer Knight is being loved. Does this mean that Aaron Ekblad is testing the market? I don't think necessarily. At $7 million, the Panthers aren't breaking the bank to get Seth Jones. It's definitely costly, but they're not breaking the bank at $9.5 million. But then there's also a Bennett needs to be signed on. But worst case, Seth Jones is your insurance there. And as Jarrett says, we let Ekblad walk, then retain Bennett. That's also a question. Do you think Marachek will be moved? I don't know if a team really wants Marachek, especially that he's not an expiring contract. He's signed on for next year too. I don't know. I could see him getting even bought out on a one-year thing if the Blackhawks just have money to get rid of. Panthers are literally playing franchise mode. No first-round pick for the next 3 years. Well, it depends on which year gets used in the first that they've moved out. J-Mac thinks Chicago fleeced Florida. Fleece is always a big word. I think it's a bit inflammatory, so I don't mean to throw it out there so that Panthers fans get upset. But I do think the Blackhawks win this deal in terms of value, while the Panthers not only get a good second pair defenseman, but they also get the insurance if Aaron Ekblad ends up walking. Because you got to keep this in consideration. Hold on, here comes the calculator again. Here we go. Calculator again. So the Panthers currently $550K of cap space, 0.55. In the offseason, so you add 4.425 from Bennett, you add 925K from Samoskevich, you add 775 from Nosek, you add 775 from Bokvist, then add the 7.5 from Ekblad and the 800K from Schmidt. And that about does it, right? That leaves me with 15.75 million. Chris Drieger, goalie is going to be whatever. So if I can find a goalie for, let's say, 1 million, that leaves me with 14.75 or close to 15 million to re-sign Sam Bennett and Aaron Ekblad. Ekblad would, making 7.5 right now, he'd have to sign at like, I don't know what. Imagine if he signs like 8.5 million, is Bennett interested in signing for 6.25? I could see it. It'll be very, very, very tight. But I think the Panthers could, there is a world where the Panthers can keep Ekblad and Bennett. Cade would have liked more retention for the price. I wonder if I'm Florida, I would say, hey, can you keep like 3 million instead? But retention over that long is just really tough. 5 years of retention, you just don't see that in the NHL. You just don't see that. Plus, yeah, the cap is increasing by a lot. It'll be easier. Like, just because the cap is increasing doesn't mean that we can go over the cap today, right? So the cap will be going up like exponentially over the next few years. But if I need to re-sign Ekblad and Bennett this June or July, and it's not up enough yet, well then, yes, I can look forward to it going up in future years, but it's not going to be enough just yet. So I can't speak for future years, NHLPA negotiations and all that. But I think with the cap increasing the amount that it is this offseason, and with the idea in mind that it will continue to increase more over the next few years, the Panthers can keep Bennett and Ekblad if they want to. I think it's possible. Is it 92 million next year? Because right now it's 80. What's the current cap? Is it 80? Hold on, cap projections. Yeah, 88 is what it is now, and it's projected to go to 95. Is it even? So it's going to the 90s. Yeah, the Panthers can do it. Especially, I thought it was going up a little bit. I thought it was going like 92 or something, up from 88 to 92. But if it's going to 95, Forsling contract is what's great as well. The Panthers are in a good spot. Forsling is signed on long-term at 5.75 till 2032. So the Panthers are going to be okay. The Panthers are going to be okay. But let's break down the numbers a little bit more. So Seth Jones eating a ton of minutes. He can be counted on for like 150 blocks per year when healthy for a full season. 150 blocks, 100 hits. He's gotten Norris votes. He was the third runner-up for the Norris in 2018. He's gotten 4 consecutive years of Norris votes from 2017 to 2020. No votes for anything else since 2020-21 until now. So no votes since then. 82 game average is 42 points and 137 blocks per 82 game season that he plays. Got the hiccups going here. Mom made cookies. Spencer Knight, looking at him now, he has appeared in, if we look at the Florida numbers, he has appeared in, well, actually I can look here, 80 NHL games, 44, 25, and 7 record with a 2.76 goals against average, 5 shutouts, 906 save percentage. There's no reason to think, in my mind, unless I'm really missing something, there's no reason in my mind to think that he can't be a high-end starter in the National Hockey League. So the Chicago Blackhawks get the guy who's going to start for them for the next few years. Comesso, Gagin, they can continue to grow in the system. Meanwhile, you don't need to put Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid and force young goaltenders into the mix. You have Spencer Knight here and ready to go. Hopefully, maybe Scott Laughton to the Leafs, maybe coming soon. We'll see. King Taylor says, only time will tell with this trade. If we get another cup out of it, I don't care about nothing else. Exactly. Flags fly forever. Banners hang forever. That's exactly it. So if the Panthers win a Stanley Cup with Seth Jones on this team, as much as it hurts to look back on Spencer Knight and that first-round pick in a couple of years, that Stanley Cup is worth it. And the Panthers needed that help on the back end. If you look at their depth right now, with Seth Jones involved, there you go. Forsling, Ekblad, Mikola Jones, Schmidt, Kulikov. I like that a lot more. Drieger gets called up to be backup goaltender, making $795K. And you even have Matthew Tkachuk, who's waiting to get back in this lineup as well, which will strengthen your team even further. So the Panthers are definitely going for back-to-back. They're trying to go back-to-back here. Will they trade Brassois? I honestly don't know the extension of his injury, so I'm not sure if he's even going to be eligible to come back and have to be traded or what. But there you go. $7 million. I don't know if he had to waive. Was it a full no move clause? So, yes. So Seth Jones waives the full no move clause to go to a Stanley Cup, the reigning Stanley Cup champion, Panthers. Yeah, the numbers haven't been great over the last few years, but I think if there's a team that can get Seth Jones back to being the best version of himself, I think Florida is one of those teams. And it provides today depth for the Panthers, and in the future, an insurance on the right side first pair to play with Gustav Forsling should Aaron Ekblad walk. So does it cost them a lot in Spencer Knight and a first? Yes, but to get insurance, to get 5 years of salary retention, to continue to be contenders with the cap going up and all that, you want to save as much as possible, it makes sense. It's costly, it's a lot, but I see it. I can see the vision. Bill Zito says, Seth Jones is an elite veteran defenseman. He's only 30 and a proven leader in our league. He has been one of the most consistent players of the past decade, serving as a reliable workhorse on both sides of the puck, and he will help our club continue to compete at the highest level. I see it. A little copium, I don't know. I see it, though. So really good with the puck, especially on breakouts. Looking at this data here, possession, driving plays, workload, efficiency. I don't look at these too often, so I don't really know the secrets of reading them. But here's the one of the stat cards on Seth Jones. Yeah. Sorry. There we go. Just had to take care of that. Okay, so Spencer Knight, yeah. At 23 going on 24. The Blackhawks now get, if we refresh, I refreshed already. They now have the 2 firsts, 3 seconds in 2026. The Panthers continue to go all in, and that's their right as Stanley Cup champions, and that's what they should be doing as their window continues to be open. No first, second, third in 2025. No first, no third in 2026. That's what they have to do. That's what you have to do to keep your window open. That's what they've got to do. So I think that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. It's a blockbuster for sure, but I think it's relatively straightforward. Seth Jones to the Panthers, that provides them depth, not even depth, but just secondary options, and it gives them insurance should Aaron Ekblad walk. Is this a bit of an overpay? Yes, Ryan. So allow me to break this down one last time for all 61 of you who are at the peak of the highest, I think, that have been watching in this stream so far. So to break it all down for you, let's find a full, there it is. So Seth Jones goes to Florida Panthers. He provides them with a secondary option behind Aaron Ekblad for 2024-25 at $2.5 million retained over 5 years. That brings a lot of value. Teams can only retain so much, so many player contracts. And if the Blackhawks know they want to weaponize that cap space as a bad team, that's using up one of those slots for the next 5 years. So to use up that slot for 5 years and to retain $2.5 million, which is not chump change. We're not talking $500K. We're talking 2.5 over 5 years. For that much retention, the Blackhawks have to give up. Oh, and sorry, Jared with the $1.99. Great info. Thanks for the live. Thank you, Jared. Thank you very much. Very much appreciated. The donation goes a very long way, and that helps for purchases here on the channel when it comes to NHL 26 coming soon, right? Thank you, Jared. So 5 years is a long time, yes. So the Panthers, for getting Jones at $7 million for 5 years, and for getting their secondary option on defense behind Ekblad, and for getting their potential insurance into the future should Aaron Ekblad go to free agency, it costs them either their 2026 or 2027 first round pick, depending on which one is available, and it costs them Spencer Knight. So that's definitely the most valuable piece here, as Knight is 23 going on 24, first round pick back in 2019. He was supposed to be the future after Sergei Bobrovsky, but what this trade tells me is they're not done on Bobrovsky just yet. I would think that Bobrovsky is not just going to be starter in 2024-25 and then maybe a 1A, 1B situation in 25-26. No, with Knight now out, they're going to ride Bobrovsky as the main starter to the end of 2026. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get him on another contract in 2026-27 once he's in his late 30s. So I wouldn't be surprised if they keep riding Bobrovsky as long as they can. And then now, what is the future of the goaltending position for the Florida Panthers? That's going to have to be their question that they answer, because there's not really much in their system at all. Only players who are drafted 5th round or later, and I've never heard of, honestly. So they're going to have to either make a free agent acquisition, a trade acquisition, or some separate draft pick, because Sergei Bobrovsky, as good as he is 36 and can only go for so long. The Panthers now no longer have the guy that they're ready to turn to. They have the better defense. They have the insurance behind Ekblad, but they no longer have the guy to go to behind Bobrovsky. If they get an injury to Bobrovsky, he's 36 now, moving into the postseason. Can they say that we trust Chris Driedger? I would not be surprised, mark my words, if before the trade deadline, the Florida Panthers acquire another goaltender. Maybe not someone who's going to be the guy who's here for years to come, but at least for here this year, maybe even for next year, but especially for this year, I don't think the Panthers go into the postseason saying Bobrovsky and Driedger are our 1-2 punch. That's it. I would think there's another goalie involved for the Florida Panthers coming before the trade deadline on Friday, March 7th, which we'll have live coverage for. Don't forget to join us for that. Don't miss out. Oh my goodness, my brain is all over the place in the instant reaction videos. Subscribe and hit that bell to be notified of breaking news trades like this one as they go on here in the National Hockey League leading up to the trade deadline. So yeah, Graf saying, in all seriousness, I think Seth Jones is underrated on this platform. He's just not another one defenseman, but in Florida with a lot more talent to work around, I think he'll fit nicely there. I think that's a good way to put it. James Reimer, I could see it. Jerry, I don't think so. Florida wants to squeeze lemonade from Sergei Bobrovsky. Yeah, I think they do. Does Florida now take a chance on a cheap backup? That's exactly what I'm saying. Someone struggling like Jerry, it would have to be someone, again, with salary retention. There would have to be some retention in there for sure, because I don't think they want to, nor can they pay that money. I could see a James Reimer type of option, though. I can see that. But Tristan Jarry making what, $5 million? Hold on. Tristan Jarry's making what? $5.375 million for this year. So 1, 2, 3 for 3 more years after this one. Yeah, I don't see it unless there's some salary retention. I don't think they want to go on 5.375 of Jerry. Yeah. Yes, salary retention on Seth Jones. The Panthers will be getting Jones at $2.5 million retained. So the Blackhawks are retaining what is like 26.3%. So $2.5 million retained by the Blackhawks for 5 years, thus giving Jones to the Panthers at a $7 million AAV. That's the word on the retention. One more time for you. Full details on this one. Seth Jones, $2.5 million retained for the next 5 years, and a 2026 fourth going to Florida for a 2026 first and Spencer Knight. And the 2026 first will slide to 2027 if Florida ends up not having a 2026 first, because there's a condition, I think, on the 2025 first that they traded. So yeah, there you go. In hindsight, says Jared, Florida should have just re-signed Brendan Montour. They could have kept the first and would have actually gotten something for Knight and might have been able to re-sign Anthony Stolarz. You know what? In hindsight, I agree. Hindsight will always be 2020, but I agree. That's too bad that it had to come to this. But it's not the end of the world, but it is true that if I'm Florida and I could either click keep Montour and my first and trade Knight for something and re-sign Stolarz, or do all this that just happened, I'm taking option number 1. Yes, no, not a bad question at all. Yes, the no trade clause stays with the player. If Seth Jones were to be traded, or if the Panthers wanted to trade Seth Jones again between now and the end of his contract in 5 years, he would once again have to waive his no move clause. Great question. Yes, that's exactly what the case is. So thanks for joining me for this breaking news live stream, ladies and gentlemen. Leave a like, and of course, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Join us in our Discord server where we're talking hockey. That's where the news got broken for me. News breaks there before anything else. We're over 700 members talking hockey, franchise mode, and much more. Subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when we go live. From now until the trade deadline, we'll have live coverage on Friday. Join us around noon Eastern until the 3 p.m. Eastern deadline. What if they wanted to trade before the deadline? Yeah, the Panthers should definitely make a trade before the deadline. But yeah, from now until the end of his contract, Seth Jones would have to waive it again if they wanted to move him. So that's it. A lot of thoughts to say about this trade. I think the Blackhawks definitely win it, but the Panthers get what they need. It's costly, but they get what they need. That's pretty much what it boils. If I had to put it in a headline, that's what it is. So big win for the Blackhawks. They get their goalie of the now, goalie of the future. A little less pressure on Drew Commesso and Adam Gajan. And Gajan, I still got to figure out. Sorry, I got to figure out how to pronounce that name. Once he's in the NHL, I'll figure it out. So they get better insurance for the goaltending position, both now and in the future, and a first-round pick in exchange for not only moving Seth Jones, but dumping $9.5 million. Yes, you retain $2.5 for 5 years, but you dump his contract, and you don't need to give up anything to dump him either. Yes, he'd have to waive it again if they were to trade him. They'd have to do that. So the original trade of having to give up the picks that became Sillinger and Jiricek and all that from the Blackhawks, it ends up with them getting a first and Spencer Knight. So the trade tree continues to branch out, and it'll still take many more years to see where that trade tree goes to. So thanks for listening, everybody. Looking forward to the next breaking news live stream whenever it comes. Maybe it'll be tonight. Who knows? We've already been live with Nyquist and what was the other trade earlier on? It was the Nyquist trade, and it was the Ryan Lindgren trade. Yes. So already the third of the day. So looking forward to talking again soon, everybody. Seth Jones, newest member of the Florida Panthers. Spencer Knight, the future of the Blackhawks. I wonder if this will come back to hurt the Panthers. They're going to need a goalie long term. I really wonder about this one. Definitely the win goes to the Blackhawks. I'm just talking in circles now. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. Definitely the win goes to the Blackhawks. But getting what they need, I don't think the Panthers would care about losing this trade if they get what they need defensively, and that depth helps them to win a Stanley Cup. Absolutely not. But longer term, time will tell. All right, I'm going to end it there. Also, I'm just keep talking in circles. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night, and I'm sure we'll be talking again soon.